Last week, my friend witnessed something on Flight 1372 that left the entire cabin speechless. A distinguished black man in a tailored suit was being confronted by a flight attendant while a white woman stood impatiently behind them. "I'm sorry, sir, but there seems to be a misunderstanding," the flight attendant said, her smile tight and forced. "We need you to relocate from this seat immediately." My friend leaned forward, coffee forgotten in his hand. The black man, calm, composed, dressed in what was clearly a designer's suit, looked up from his laptop with confusion. "Excuse me," he asked, voice measured despite the growing tension. "Is there a problem with my seat?" The flight attendant's smile never reached her eyes. "This particular seat, 1A, is typically reserved for our most valued platinum customers." She gestured toward the white woman standing behind her, who was checking her watch repeatedly. "Ms. Westfield always sits here when she travels with us." The man pulled out his boarding pass. "I am Malik Adeyemi, CEO of Nexus Technologies. This is my assigned seat, 1A, which I paid for. I'm also a platinum member." He reached for his wallet, producing a platinum card that matched the flight attendant's. The entire first-class cabin had gone quiet, passengers pretending to read magazines while straining to hear every word. "Yes, well," the attendant continued, visibly flustered but holding firm. "Ms. Westfield is one of our regular platinum members. Perhaps you could move to another first-class seat? It would be greatly appreciated." The white woman sighed loudly. "I've been sitting in 1A for the past 3 years. It's practically my seat." She looked directly at Malik. "Surely you understand the importance of customer loyalty." My friend watched as Malik's expression shifted from confusion to recognition. This wasn't about the seat. This wasn't about platinum status. This was about something else entirely. "I understand perfectly," Malik replied, his voice carrying through the now silent cabin. "But I won't be moving. This is my assigned seat, which I paid for with my hard-earned money." The flight attendant's smile vanished completely. "Sir, if you refuse to cooperate, I'll need to call the flight manager." "Please do," Malik responded, taking out his phone. "And while you're at it, I'll be calling my attorney." Phones began to emerge throughout the cabin. People who had been pretending not to notice were now openly recording. The atmosphere grew charged with tension as the flight manager approached, his face already set in determination. What happened next would change the lives of everyone involved, most dramatically for the airline staff, who had no idea they were about to confront not just any passenger, but a man whose net worth exceeded $200 million and whose influence reached the highest levels of corporate America. Have you ever witnessed someone being mistreated simply because of how they looked? Share your thoughts in the comments below as we explore this shocking story of discrimination, justice, and the power of standing your ground. Malik Adeyemi wasn't born into wealth. Far from it. Growing up in a modest apartment with his grandmother in South Chicago, he had learned early that hard work and determination were the only ladders available to him. At age 12, he built his first computer from discarded parts found at the local dump. By 16, he was coding websites for neighborhood businesses, and at 24, after graduating summa cum laude from MIT despite working 3 jobs to pay his tuition, he founded Nexus Technologies. Now, at 38, Malik had transformed that startup into a $2.3 billion company specializing in cybersecurity solutions. His journey from the neglected corners of South Chicago to the glossy covers of Fortune and Forbes had become legendary in tech circles. But success hadn't changed his fundamental character. He remained grounded, humble, and acutely aware of how his visibility as a black CEO mattered to countless young people who saw themselves in him. That Tuesday morning had begun like any other. Malik woke at 4:30 a.m., completed his usual 5-mile run, and prepared for his flight to Silicon Valley. He was scheduled to deliver the keynote address at the World Tech Summit, an honor that recognized both his company's innovations and his personal advocacy for diversity in tech. His assistant had arranged everything: the luxury car service, his preferred window seat in first class, and a carefully curated presentation that would announce Nexus's new initiative to fund tech education in underserved communities. "All set for the big speech, Mr. Adeyemi?" asked Dominic, his driver of 3 years, as they pulled up to the airport terminal. "Almost," Malik smiled, reviewing his notes one final time. "Just need to polish a few points during the flight." "You'll knock 'em dead, sir. Always do." Malik thanked him warmly before heading into the terminal. The airport staff recognized him immediately, not from magazines or TV appearances, but because he made a point to learn their names and ask about their families whenever he traveled. It was a courtesy that many executives in his position never bothered with. "Good morning, Mr. Adeyemi," called Roshni from the premium check-in counter. "How's your grandmother doing with her new hip?" "Much better, thanks for asking," he replied genuinely. "She's already complaining about not being allowed to dance yet." Roshni laughed as she processed his boarding pass. "Your usual window seat in first class is confirmed, and the lounge has set aside that quiet corner you prefer for working." The VIP lounge was a sanctuary of plush chairs and hushed conversations. Malik settled in with his laptop, responding to urgent emails and finalizing his presentation. He purposely chose a seat away from the celebrities and politicians who frequented the space, not out of shyness, but because he valued productivity over networking when on tight schedules. When boarding time arrived, he was among the first to walk down the jet bridge. The cabin crew greeted him with professional courtesy as he located his seat, 1A, his preferred spot for its extra legroom and privacy. He stowed his carry-on, placed his laptop on the side table, and began settling in for the 4-hour flight. The first-class cabin gradually filled with the usual mix of executives, wealthy vacationers, and frequent flyers. Malik exchanged polite nods with those making eye contact, but otherwise focused on reviewing his presentation notes. He ordered a sparkling water when the pre-flight drink service began, declining the champagne offered by the attendant. "Would you care for a hot towel, sir?" asked another flight attendant, presenting a silver tray. "Yes, thank you," Malik replied, accepting the steaming cloth to refresh his hands. Everything was proceeding normally. The captain announced a slight delay due to air traffic control, but nothing concerning. Malik sent a quick text to his team confirming his estimated arrival time and then switched his phone to airplane mode. He closed his eyes briefly, mentally rehearsing the opening lines of his keynote. That's when he heard it. A commotion at the front of the cabin. Opening his eyes, he saw a woman speaking firmly to a flight attendant while gesturing toward his direction. The attendant nodded repeatedly, her expression shifting from neutral to concerned as she began walking toward him. Malik felt that familiar twist in his stomach, the one he'd experienced countless times throughout his life whenever he entered spaces where people like him weren't expected. The involuntary preparation for having to justify his presence. The steeling of nerves for what might come next. Have you ever felt that sinking feeling when you know something unfair is about to happen? Drop a comment if you've ever been in a situation where you were unfairly questioned despite doing everything right. Veronica Westfield considered herself royalty among frequent flyers. With over 2 million miles logged on this airline alone, she had grown accustomed to certain privileges. Chief among them her preferred seat, 1A. It wasn't officially reserved for her, but the airline staff typically accommodated her requests without question. Her platinum status, combined with her connections to the airline's board members, had essentially guaranteed her this courtesy for years. So when she boarded the flight that morning and saw someone else occupying her seat, Veronica was visibly displeased. She immediately approached Jessica Torres, the lead flight attendant she knew by name. "Jessica," she said, her voice carrying just enough for nearby passengers to hear, "there must be some mistake. Someone is sitting in my seat." Jessica checked her manifest. "Ms. Westfield, according to our records, you're assigned to 2C today. I can assure you it's equally comfortable." "Please." Veronica cut her off with a dismissive wave. "You know I always sit in 1A. I specifically requested it when booking, as I always do." Her eyes narrowed as she studied Malik. "Who is that, anyway?" "I don't recognize him from our usual first-class roster." Jessica hesitated, aware that Veronica's complaint was crossing into uncomfortable territory. "That's Mr. Adeyemi. He's also a platinum member and has been assigned seat 1A for this flight." "Well, there's clearly been a mix-up," Veronica insisted. "I'm sure he wouldn't mind moving. Go speak to him, would you? I have an important meeting immediately after landing and need my usual seat to prepare properly." Jessica reluctantly approached Malik, their conversation unfolding exactly as my friend had witnessed. When Malik politely but firmly refused to move, showing his boarding pass and platinum card, Jessica found herself caught between two valued customers. "I apologize for the confusion," she said, lowering her voice. "But Ms. Westfield is one of our most loyal customers. Perhaps as a courtesy you might consider." I purchased this seat. I'm a platinum member as well. And I have work to complete during this flight, Malik replied evenly. I'm not moving simply because someone else wants my seat. Veronica, watching from the aisle, stepped forward. Excuse me, but I've been sitting in that seat for over 3 years now. The staff knows my preferences. She turned to Jessica. This is unacceptable service. Jessica's professional demeanor cracked slightly. Ms. Westfield, please take your assigned seat. The flight is full and we need to complete boarding. Then get Winston, Veronica demanded, referring to the flight manager. He'll sort this out properly. By now, several passengers were watching the exchange with growing interest. A young woman across the aisle had subtly angled her phone toward the confrontation, recording. Winston Mason appeared moments later, his face a mask of practiced neutrality. At 52, with 25 years of airline experience, he prided himself on resolving conflicts efficiently. What seems to be the problem, he asked, though he'd already been briefed by another attendant. This gentleman is in Ms. Westfield's preferred seat, Jessica explained, her choice of words revealing her bias. She's requesting that he move to accommodate her. Winston turned to Malik. Sir, we have a situation here. Ms. Westfield is one of our most valued customers who typically sits in this seat. Would you mind moving to another first-class seat? We'd be happy to offer you complimentary drinks during your flight as a token of our appreciation. Malik looked Winston directly in the eye. My name is Malik Adeyemi, CEO of Nexus Technologies. This is my assigned seat which I paid for. I am also a platinum member. There is no reason I should move. Winston's expression hardened. Sir, we're trying to resolve this amicably. Your cooperation would be greatly appreciated. And why exactly should I cooperate, Malik asked. Because another passenger wants my seat? Or is there another reason you think I should be the one to move? The implication hung in the air. Several passengers shifted uncomfortably. I assure you this has nothing to do with, Winston began. With what? Malik pressed. Please finish that sentence. Winston changed tactics. Mr. Adeyemi, if you refuse to cooperate, we may need to ask you to deplane. This is becoming a boarding delay issue. So I'm causing a delay by sitting in my assigned seat? Malik raised his voice slightly, ensuring other passengers could hear. While she's causing no delay by demanding my seat? A middle-aged man 2 rows back spoke up. That doesn't sound right. Another passenger chimed in. I've been watching this whole thing. He's in his assigned seat. Why should he move? Phones were emerging throughout the cabin now. What had begun as a discreet confrontation was becoming a documented incident. Veronica sensed the shift in atmosphere. This is ridiculous. I've never been treated this way. Neither have I, Malik replied calmly. But unlike you, I'm simply asking to remain in the seat I purchased. Winston lowered his voice to a near whisper. Sir, please don't make this difficult. It would be easier for everyone if you just moved. Easier for whom? Malik asked, pulling out his phone. Because from where I'm sitting, literally, being asked to give up my seat to accommodate someone else's sense of entitlement isn't easy at all. It's discriminatory. That word sent a visible ripple through the cabin. Winston stepped back, suddenly aware of how many passengers were now recording. Are you accusing us of discrimination? He asked. I'm stating a fact, Malik replied. You've provided no valid reason why I should move. Yet you're threatening to remove me from this flight. I'd like your full name and employee ID number, please. What would you do if you were in Malik's position? Would you quietly move or stand your ground? Let me know in the comments below. Winston stood frozen, suddenly aware that the situation had escalated beyond his control. The cabin had gone completely silent, all eyes fixed on the confrontation unfolding in seat 1A. My employee ID is 45,872, Winston finally said, his voice noticeably less confident. And my full name is Winston Mason. Malik typed this information into his phone, his movements deliberate and composed. Thank you, Mr. Mason. Now I'd like to understand on record why you believe I should give up my assigned seat when I've done nothing wrong. Before Winston could respond, Malik continued. Because what I'm experiencing appears to be textbook discrimination. I've paid for this seat, I have platinum status, yet I'm being asked to move solely to accommodate another passenger who believes she's entitled to my space. That's not, Winston started. It's exactly what's happening, Malik interrupted, and I won't stand for it. He dialed a number on his phone, putting it on speaker. "Hello, Jamal. It's Malik. I need you on the line right now. I'm experiencing what appears to be racial discrimination on Flight 1372. Jamal Washington, Nexus Technologies' chief legal counsel, responded immediately. "I'm recording this call, Malik. Please explain exactly what's happening." As Malik recounted the events, a woman seated across from him spoke up. "I've been recording since they first approached you," she offered. "I'd be happy to send you the video." "Thank you," Malik nodded appreciatively. "Please send it to the email address I'm about to share." 2 more passengers stood up. "We've been recording too," said a young man in a college sweatshirt. "This is wrong on so many levels." Veronica Westfield's face had transformed from indignant to concerned. She leaned toward Winston, whispering urgently, but her words carried in the quiet cabin. "Fix this now." Winston attempted to regain control. "Everyone, please take your seats." "Sir, I must ask you to end your call so we can depart." "I'll end my call when you stop threatening to remove me from this flight for sitting in my assigned seat," Malik replied calmly. "Jamal, I'm going to live stream this now. Stay on the line." With practiced efficiency, Malik opened his social media app and began streaming. "Hello everyone, I'm Malik Adeyemi, CEO of Nexus Technologies, currently sitting in my assigned first-class seat on Flight 1372. For the past 15 minutes, I've been repeatedly asked to give up this seat for another passenger. When I refused, the flight manager threatened to remove me from the plane. I'm streaming this live because what's happening to me happens to people who look like me every day, except most don't have the platform I do to expose it." The viewer count jumped rapidly, 100, 500, 1,000. Comments flooded in expressing outrage and support. Winston's demeanor shifted dramatically as he realized the implications. "Mr. Adeyemi, perhaps we can discuss this privately." "There's nothing to discuss privately," Malik responded. "You've made your position clear in front of these witnesses. You believe I should surrender my rightfully purchased seat because another passenger feels entitled to it. And when I refused, you threatened me with removal." An older white man in a business suit stood up from his seat. "I fly this route weekly and I've never seen anyone treated this way. This gentleman is in his assigned seat. There's absolutely no reason he should move." A flight attendant rushed forward, whispering urgently to Winston. Her panicked expression told everyone that news of the live stream had reached the cockpit. "Mr. Adeyemi," Winston said, his voice now conciliatory, "there's been a misunderstanding. Of course you can remain in your seat. Miss Westfield will take her assigned seat and will be departing shortly." "The misunderstanding," Malik replied, still streaming, "is that you thought I would quietly accept this treatment. The misunderstanding is believing that my dignity was negotiable." He turned to address his rapidly growing online audience. "This isn't just about a seat on a plane. This is about the countless times people of color are expected to accommodate, to move aside, to accept less than what they've earned and paid for. Not today." Veronica had quietly slipped into her assigned seat, her earlier indignation replaced by evident discomfort. The captain's voice came over the intercom. "This is Captain Rodriguez. Mr. Adeyemi, could you please come to the cockpit? I'd like to speak with you personally." Malik looked directly into his camera. "Seems like things are developing. I'll keep you all updated." The live stream had reached 25,000 viewers in just minutes. If you believe everyone deserves to be treated with dignity regardless of their race, hit that like button right now. By the time Flight 1372 touched down in San Francisco, Malik Adeyemi's live stream had been viewed over 3 million times. The 15-minute video had been shared by celebrities, civil rights leaders, and thousands of ordinary people outraged by what they'd witnessed. Seat Justice and Malik Adeyemi were trending nationwide. Captain Rodriguez had personally apologized to Malik after inviting him to the cockpit, assuring him that he would file a formal report about Winston and Jessica's behavior. The rest of the flight proceeded without incident, though the atmosphere in first class remained tense. Veronica Westfield kept her gaze fixed on her laptop, while Winston and Jessica avoided the forward cabin entirely. As Malik exited the plane, he was surprised to find Jamal Washington, his chief legal counsel, waiting at the gate, alongside a team from Nexus Technologies' PR department. "That escalated quickly," Jamal said, showing Malik his phone. The video had been picked up by major news networks, with commentators dissecting every moment of the confrontation. CNN wants an interview. So does MSNBC, Fox, and every other outlet with a camera. Schedule whatever makes sense, Malik replied. But first, I need to make that keynote speech. While Malik delivered his address to thunderous applause at the World Tech Summit, Atlantic Airlines was facing its worst PR crisis in decades. Their social media accounts were flooded with angry comments, their customer service lines overwhelmed. The hashtag Boycott Atlantic Airlines had gained traction, with people sharing their own experiences of discrimination on the carrier. At Atlantic's headquarters in Dallas, CEO Jerome Baldwin was in emergency meetings with his executive team. Baldwin, known for his direct management style, watched Malik's video 3 times in silence before speaking. "This is inexcusable," he finally said. "Completely inexcusable." The room remained silent as Baldwin continued. "I want a full investigation launched immediately. Pull the personnel files of everyone involved. Review their past customer interactions. Check if we've had similar complaints before. And get me a direct line to Malik Adeyemi. I want to speak with him personally." Baldwin knew the stakes were enormous. Atlantic Airlines stock had already dropped 7% in after-hours trading, and cancellations were pouring in. Beyond the financial implications, Baldwin, the company's first black CEO, appointed just 8 months prior, felt personally wounded by the incident. "This goes against everything we claim to stand for," he told his team, "and I want answers by morning." The investigation revealed disturbing patterns. Winston Mason had 6 previous complaints related to discriminatory treatment of minority passengers, all of which had been filed away without significant action. Jessica Torres had 4 similar complaints. Most troubling, the investigation uncovered an unofficial practice among certain crew members of accommodating requests from high-value passengers like Veronica Westfield at the expense of others, particularly those from minority background. 48 hours after the incident, Baldwin held a press conference. Flanked by his executive team and the company's board chair, he addressed the situation head-on. "What happened to Mr. Adeyemi reflects a complete failure of our values and training," Baldwin stated firmly. "Our investigation has revealed that this was not an isolated incident but part of a pattern of behavior that has no place at Atlantic Airlines or anywhere else." Baldwin announced immediate corrective actions. The entire crew involved in the incident had been terminated. Atlantic would implement mandatory anti-bias training for all 24,000 employees. An independent civil rights audit would be conducted across the company. And a new executive position, Chief Inclusion Officer, would be created, reporting directly to Baldwin. "We cannot undo the humiliation Monsieur Adeyemi experienced," Baldwin concluded, "but we can ensure it never happens again." Following the press conference, Baldwin spoke privately with Malik, offering both a personal apology and an invitation to help shape Atlantic's new inclusion initiatives. The conversation, which Malik later described as surprisingly candid, lasted nearly 2 hours. Meanwhile, the public reaction continued to intensify. Former Atlantic employees came forward with their own stories of witnessing or experiencing discrimination. Veronica Westfield was identified by internet sleuths, leading to calls for her employer, a prominent law firm, to address her behavior. The firm subsequently placed her on administrative leave pending their own investigation. As for Winston and Jessica, their names and faces had become synonymous with entrenched privilege and discrimination. Both issued public apologies that were widely criticized as inadequate and self-serving. Their futures in the airline industry appeared permanently grounded. Has social media changed the way businesses respond to discrimination? Share your thoughts below. 3 weeks after the incident, Malik Adeyemi stood before a packed auditorium at Howard University. Students, faculty, and media filled every seat to hear him speak about his experience and what came next. "What happened to me on that flight happens to Black Americans every day," Malik began. "The difference is that most incidents don't go viral. Most people don't have millions of followers or the resources to fight back. That's why what we do with this moment matters more than the moment itself." Atlantic Airlines had reached out to Malik's legal team within days of the incident, eager to settle before a lawsuit could be filed. The terms they offered were substantial: a multi-million-dollar settlement, a formal apology, and a commitment to overhaul their training and policies. But Malik had stipulations of his own. "I didn't want their money," he told the audience, "at least not for myself." Instead, Malik directed the entire $3,200,000 settlement toward establishing the Seat at the Table Foundation. The foundation would provide scholarships and mentoring to minority students pursuing careers in technology, with a focus on those from underserved communities like the one where Malik grew up. The name isn't just about airline seats, Malik explained with a smile. It's about making sure everyone has a seat at tables of power and influence. It's about creating opportunities for brilliant young minds who might otherwise be overlooked or underestimated. The Foundation's first class of scholars, 20 students receiving full-ride scholarships to top tech programs, sat in the front row, beaming with pride. Beyond the settlement, Malik had worked directly with Jerome Baldwin to reshape Atlantic Airlines' approach to diversity and inclusion. Their collaboration surprised many, but both men recognized the potential for meaningful change. Jerome and I spent hours discussing what real inclusion looks like, Malik shared. Not just sensitivity training videos that employees sleep through, but fundamental changes to hiring practices, promotion criteria, and accountability measures. The changes at Atlantic became a blueprint for the industry. The airline established a passenger bill of rights specifically addressing discrimination. They implemented a transparent reporting system for bias incidents, with quarterly public updates on complaints received and actions taken. Most significantly, they tied executive compensation directly to diversity metrics and customer satisfaction scores from minority passengers. Other airlines quickly followed suit, fearing similar incidents and public backlash. Within 6 months, every major U.S. carrier had announced new anti-bias initiatives. The Federal Aviation Administration launched its own investigation into discrimination in air travel, resulting in new guidelines for airlines nationwide. For Winston Mason and Jessica Torres, the aftermath brought hard lessons. Both struggled to find employment in the industry they'd worked in for years. However, Malik surprised many by reaching out to them personally. Firing those employees was necessary but insufficient, Malik explained. Systems don't change if we simply remove individuals without addressing the conditions that enabled their behavior. He offered them an unexpected opportunity to participate in developing Atlantic's new training program, sharing their perspectives on how biases had influenced their actions and what might have prevented the incident. Initially reluctant, both eventually agreed, providing valuable insights that strengthened the program's effectiveness. As for Veronica Westfield, her law firm's investigation resulted in mandatory community service and bias training. She later issued a public apology, acknowledging her privilege and how she had weaponized it against Malik. She too became part of the conversation about recognizing and addressing everyday discrimination. 6 months after the incident, Malik returned to Atlantic Airlines, intentionally booking seat 1A. The crew, having completed the new training program, treated him with the respect and courtesy all passengers deserve. The flight manager personally welcomed him aboard, thanking him for giving the company a chance to earn back his trust. This story isn't about villains and heroes, Malik concluded his Howard University address. It's about systems that encourage ordinary people to act in discriminatory ways, and how we can dismantle those systems together. It's about holding institutions accountable while creating paths for growth and redemption. The impact of Flight 1372 extended far beyond one airline or industry. Schools began using Malik's video in civics and ethics classes, corporate training programs incorporated the case study, and most importantly, countless individuals found the courage to stand their ground when facing similar situations, knowing they weren't alone. Change doesn't come from silence, Malik reminded the audience. It comes from those willing to speak truth, even when their voices shake. If this story moved you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories that matter. The story of Malik Adeyemi reminds us that change happens when courage meets opportunity. One person's refusal to accept discrimination created ripples that transformed an entire industry. But more importantly, it showed how standing firm in your dignity can inspire others to do the same. What happened on Flight 1372 wasn't just about a seat assignment. It was about the everyday battles fought by those who are constantly asked to compromise their worth to make others comfortable. It was about the power of documentation in an age where injustice can no longer hide in the shadows. The most powerful lesson from Malik's experience isn't that he won his battle. It's that he transformed his victory into opportunity for others. by creating pathways for future generations and working to fix broken systems. He showed us how to turn moments of injustice into movements for change. Next week we'll explore another powerful story of courage. Black doctor saves life of man with KKK tattoo. What happened next changed both their lives forever. It's a remarkable journey of healing that crosses the deepest divides in our society. What other stories of triumph over discrimination would you like to hear? Let me know in the comments, and remember to subscribe to the Story Well for more stories that educate, inspire, and empower.